Hi, I'm Chef Taylor with Nourish Colorado, and welcome to our Recognize When to Mechanize video training series, where we're going to be talking about small equipment that can help you create better efficiencies in your kitchen with dealing with local product. Today we're going to be talking about food processors, and in particular this R2 Dice from Robocoop. Okay, there are obviously a lot of pieces with this machine, but try not to get too intimidated by it. We're going to go through everything piece by piece. But before we do that, we have 4 main tips that I want to talk about. First of all, safety first. We want to make sure that the machine is unplugged from the wall while we're trying to assemble it and get everything ready to go. Number 2, we talk about zoning all of the time. We want to make sure that this has a place in our kitchen to live. All of these pieces can get bumped into, nicked, lost. We don't want to see any of that happen, so we want to make sure that this has a proper place in the kitchen that it always goes back to. Number 3, we have written on here a couple of arrows and numbers that are going to help with assembly that we'll go through it a little bit later. And number 4, we want to make sure that we want to hand wash this all the time. There's a lot of electrical equipment in here. There's vents right here, so this piece definitely does not need to be submerged into anything. We're just going to wipe it down with our wash and sani buckets, and the rest of these pieces need to be washed by hand. And that's the way that we can keep this thing going for a very long time. Okay, with this model, there are 2 main things that we can use with it. One is going to be the bowl, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But first, we're going to talk about the continuous feed option. I'm going to go ahead and assemble it for you and show you how we can get that ready to go. Here's the base for it, and you can see that we've drawn the arrows on here, and that's what we talked about at the beginning of the video. And we have a 1 and a 2 written on the base here. Now the arrow is going to be on the 1 position, and when it locks in, it'll be over the 2 position. I'll show you. Pop that in right there, and right now it's on the 1 position. We'll slide that over, locked into the 2 position. Next, we're going to have this black piece right here. It's got these bubbles. This is going to be our pusher. This is going to push the cut produce out of the bell here when it's ready to go. It's got a little groove on it that should line up with this metal piece in the middle. So once you find where it fits in, it should fall to the bottom right there. Next, we're going to attach whatever blade we want to use. First, we're going to start with the slicer. And again, it's got this little groove in it that should line up with this black piece. You should know because it'll fall in like that. We'll assemble our next piece. Same sort of idea. We have this arrow. It should line up with the 1 position and then lock to the 2 position and be lined up with all of those other arrows. Here's the 1 position, locked to the 2 position. Last piece, we have our plunge. We put this through after we have our produce in this piece right here, so we're not using our hand to push the produce through to get cut. We don't want to chop off our fingers. It's important that these have to be assembled 1 piece at a time. They won't fit on correctly if you try to attach this entire unit on at once. It actually won't work. Same with disassembling it. This will not come disassembled unless you do it 1 piece at a time. I'll go ahead and show you. It is locked in there. So we'll take this piece out, disassemble it that way, take the blade out, take the pusher out, and we're disassembled. All right, now we're fully assembled with the slicer blade. We're ready to prep all of these veggies, but I'm going to give it a quick test to make sure that everything is aligned. If it's not aligned, when you turn it on, you're going to hear weird sounds and you're going to know about it. So let's turn this on button. 3 buttons on here. The green button is the on button. The red button is the off button. The black button is the pulse button, and we'll go through the pulse button here a little later with the bowl. Let's press the on button. Sounds good. Everything seems to be working okay. I think we're ready to start prepping. Over here on my left, I have my prepared veggies. We still need to do a little bit of a prep when we're using these machines. I'm going to do carrots first. We peeled and cut the tops off of these carrots. And then over here on this side, after everything comes out of the bell, we need to make sure that we have a container that everything is going to go into. I'm going to take my plunger, and it actually has 2 pieces to it. I'll take out this middle piece, and we still have a nice tube in there for that. We'll stick that in there, and that works really well for these long tube veggies like zucchinis and carrots. It works really well for that. So I'll stick a veggie in here. I'll grab my plunger. Let's turn it on and get ready to go. Okay, that was super quick and easy. And now we have a bunch of sliced carrots ready to go. All right, let's try a different produce item this time. Now we're going to try radishes, and we're going to use the entire plunger and not just the middle part. So safety first again, I have this unplugged. I'm going to lay the radishes in here. As best as I can. Till they're about halfway up, I'll stick my plunger in it. I'll plug it in. And we'll go ahead and turn it on and get it ready to go. Okay, and now we have a bunch of really good looking sliced radishes. Okay, let's try a different produce item. Now we're going to have cabbage. I still have the slicer blade in there and it works really well to help shred this cabbage. Let's see. We still have to quarter these up, chunk them a little bit until they can fit into this area. There we go. We'll turn the machine on. Let's get some shredded cabbage. Okay, now that we're done shredding cabbage, there's a little bit of leftover product in the middle of this, so I kind of want to show you how we can clean it up. First, we have to disassemble the top piece. We'll scoot that off. We'll take out our blade, our pusher. Now we can get everything that's left over in here. All right, let's move on to a different produce item. Onions. Once again, these need a little bit of prep. I halved them and took the skin off. Sometimes if they're really big jumbo onions, we're going to need to quarter them so they can fit into here. Let's give it a shot. I'm about to cry. All right, we went ahead and changed out our blades. Now I have the shredder blade in there instead of the slicer blade. We're going to show what it looks like to shred something like carrots. A couple different ways we can do this as far as prep time goes. I left the carrots whole for a couple of these, and we're going to send it through the middle part like we did at the beginning when we sliced them. I also have a couple carrots that are sliced almost in thirds. That way we can take out the big plunger and set them that way, and we'll get a little bit longer of a shred. So I'll show you a little bit of both ways. Okay, there's a little bit of a short shred with these carrots. Let's try the long shredder. Yeah, and you can really see the difference in that. Much longer. All right, let's talk about assembly when we want to work with the dicer blade. It's a little different than the other blades that we had with the continuous feeder. Same sort of thing, we want to make sure it's unplugged. Put our base there, 1 position, 2 position, locked. Then we're going to put our black mover in there first. Then we're going to put the dicer blade in there. It says this side up on the top of it there, but we went ahead and wrote up on that side so everybody knows that's the up side. It has these grooves right here. That's the only way it's going to fit in there is if you line it up with those grooves. Pop that in there. Okay? This is where a lot of people mess up. This is the blade, the one that with the turner, with the screw on top of it. This is the one that we have to use with the dicer. A lot of people want to put this slicer blade on top of that, but if you do that, it sits a little too high, and then it can end up cutting through your plunger piece right here and ruining this blade. So we want to make sure to put on the correct blade, the one with the screw top. Goes in the same way through the groove, and then you can screw it on. This little piece right here in the plunger, you can see there's a notch at the bottom of it that fits right on top of that black screw top. That's so you can easily screw that in. There we go. Okay, that's tight, ready to go. Same system. We're going to put the top on, one position, locked in two position, and then our plunger is ready to go. And now we're all set and ready to dice. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like to dice some onions. Wow, look at all of those diced onions that we have. That was so quick. All right, we already have the onions diced. We want to make a pico today, so we're going to go ahead and dice tomatoes. I didn't clean this through the process since the tomatoes and onions are already going to be mixed up. We're just going to go ahead and put the tomatoes in right after those onions. It's a little bit difficult to clean sometimes with the harder vegetables like carrots and onions. So if you do the softer vegetables after that, it'll be a little bit easier to clean when they push those out. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and grab my spatula over here. I have a bunch of really great looking diced tomatoes. Okay, now that we're all done dicing, I'm going to show you quick disassembly and a little bit of quick cleaning tips. We'll take this top piece off. Remember to be super safe when we're unscrewing this top blade. Once it's loose, we'll remove the blade, pop it in a pan here so it's ready to go into the dish area. Then you can see the dicer blade has collected a little bit right there. The best way to clean this out, like I said, to use the soft vegetables after the tough vegetables. We'll spray this out in our sprayer as best as we can, and if there's anything left over, we can use a pen or some chopsticks or a skewer to go ahead and get the rest. All right, now we're going to move on to the other section of the RoboCoupe. We're going to talk about this bowl. This is great for fine chopping, mincing, great for garlic and herbs, and even making dressings. Let's talk about assembly for it. Once again, we have our arrows that we've drawn on here. We're going to keep it in the 1 and 2 position, just like we were with the continuous feed. We'll put this one on first. On the 1 position, locked onto the 2 position. It has a special blade for it. We call it the S blade. It is also grooved just like the other blades, so it should only fit in here one particular way. There we go, just like that. Same thing with the lid. Here we have the arrow. We're in 1 position, locked in the 2nd position. Now that it's all together, just like the continuous feed, it will not come apart. It only goes on 1 piece at a time, whether you're assembling it or disassembling it. Okay, now that we have the bowl set up, let's go ahead and see what it takes to chop up some garlic. We recommend buying your garlic whole cloves like this, already peeled, and if you have more than you're going to use, go ahead and throw it in the freezer and it stores just fine. I'll put this into the bowl. Okay. We'll pop the lid on here. We're in 1 position, over to 2nd position, locked and ready to go. We'll open the lid. We want to make sure to take the blade out first, so we don't want to stick our hands in there with a blade. And there we go. Okay, now let's see what it looks like to chop some fresh herbs in the bowl. I have some cilantro, and I went ahead and chopped off the majority of the stems, but still left some of them on the stems right there. We're just going to throw them all into the bowl and chop everything up. We want to make sure it's evenly distributed in here so it keeps it from clumping. And we don't want to overload it because then it could just blend and pulse into a pulp. This is a good time to mention the pulse button right here. Sometimes if you just press on when chopping herbs, you'll go too far and you'll end up making a blended pulp. So if we use this pulse button, we can kind of control how finely we want to chop our herbs. Let's give it a shot. I can go a little bit more actually. There we go. That's the consistency I'm looking for. Here we have finely chopped herbs. All right, we're all done chopping our veggies, but we have a couple more quick tips to show you about. Over here on the side of our continuous feeder, there is an extra added instruction graphic to help you set up your dicer the same way that I told you that you need to set up the correct blade for that dicer. And one more thing over here on the base, sometimes when you're pushing product through, if you push too much, it'll jam or it could cause an electrical short. Right here where it says reset, right underneath the base, there's a button here. If it's popped out, you can go ahead and push that button back in and it'll reset the base for you. Make sure you disassemble everything off of the top of it first, unplug it, push the button back in, and then you can go ahead and reassemble and get going again. If you're looking to purchase one of these machines, this one right here starts at about $1,500 and can go up a little bit from that. We recommend that you purchase one with a dicer attachment because that is just super handy. Okay, look at all of this amazing, beautiful produce that we just cut. It didn't take us very long to break down all of this stuff, and when you're working with the local Colorado produce, these machines are great for helping break them down, putting them onto your salad bar, or working them into your hot menus. I hope this video gave you some confidence if you already have one of these machines, or if you're thinking about purchasing one of them. I hope it gave you the confidence to be able to use it and be able to be creative with it. Thank you so much for supporting Colorado's agricultural producers and for feeding your kids tasty meals.